We got current UFC champions versus the GOATs of every UFC weight class of all time. Here we go. Let's get into it. First, we got Josh Van versus Demetrius Johnson, man. Man, Demetrius Johnson, man, was a good guy back in the day, man. He took a couple losses at the end of his career, man, but he's widely considered as the GOAT of the flyweight division, He has wins over, some cans, John Dodson, who the fuck, Henry Cejudo. He also lost to Henry Cejudo, but he beat, these guys like Ray Borg, man. These guys, man, I have to say something, man. I think Demetrius Johnson's resume is very overrated, man. Demetrius Johnson, he has wins over basically plumbers, man. These guys had a 9-to-5 job. UFC was basically their part-time job, man. That's why they traded him for, a bag of chips and Ben Askren, man. But man, let's talk about this matchup, man. Demetrius Johnson, man, he was gonna try to, he's a wrestler. His striking was not the best, man. His striking was not the best. He lost to Henry Cejudo on the feet, man. But let's talk about Josh Van, man. Josh Van, his boxing is amazing. His takedown defense is amazing. He has really good wins in this division, man. He beat Brandon Royval in a crazy fight. He beat Tatsuo Taira in another war. All of his fights, man, are all wars, man. All great fights, And man, I do not see Demetrius Johnson beating Josh Van, man. I swear I don't. Prime for prime, man. Demetrius Johnson is not beating Josh Van, man. If Tatsuo Taira, a way bigger guy, a much more skilled, I wouldn't say grappler, but he's definitely a lot more, modern with his techniques, man. And Demetrius Johnson, man, is not that good on the feet, man. If I have to say that myself, man. I've thought a lot about this matchup, man. He lost to Henry Cejudo on the feet, man. I'm not saying Henry Cejudo's bad, man, but Henry Cejudo, man, his striking was never the best and the most, it was sloppy. He has some power, but man, I think in this matchup, Josh Van would defend the takedowns. Demetrius Johnson's a little shorter than Josh Van. Very rare. Demetrius Johnson's like 5'2", a very small flyweight. He would defend those takedowns, and he would beat him up on the feet, man. I really see it, man. I think Josh Van would genuinely beat Demetrius Johnson, man. I think Josh Van would box him up on the feet, stuff his takedowns, stuff DJ's takedowns, and end up knocking him out in the 4th round, man, after he gasses him out, man. Could he get some takedowns here and there? Yeah, but I think Josh Van will get right back up, man. People forget, man, DJ is one of the smallest flyweights ever, man. He's like 5'1", 5'2". Josh Van's actually bigger than DJ, man, and I think he'll have a little bit of size on him, a little bit of strength. He can push him off. I think he would beat him up on the feet, man. Official prediction or official matchup: Josh Van by round 4 KO, man. Late round 4 KO after stuffing takedowns and beating him up on the feet. Maybe DJ wins 1 or 2 rounds, early rounds. Maybe get some takedowns here and there. But man, I think Josh Van would genuinely beat him. Next fight, we got Petr versus Dominick Cruz, man. Let's talk about this fight, man. Dominick Cruz is considered as the best bantamweight of all time, man. He's considered not the best, but the greatest. He had a couple title defenses, man. He had a couple wins, but man, I honestly think he got surpassed by Merab as the greatest of all time, man. But we already saw that matchup, so let's talk about this matchup, man. Petr versus Dominick Cruz, man. Dominick Cruz, man, was known for his nice footwork, man. He was he was a little crafty on the feet, man. He was a little sniper, He would beat people up on the feet. Had a lot of crazy head movement, which got a lot of attention from the fans. But man, I think, man, his career definitely got hurt by injuries, man. But I think Petr, it was a really good matchup, man. Petr versus Dominick Cruz, I think that would have been a really entertaining fight, man. But I think Petr would do some bad things to Dominick Cruz, man. If I'm being honest, man. Dominick Cruz, man, never had the best chin, man. He got knocked out a couple times, knocked out by Cejudo. He got knocked out versus Cody. I don't think he got knocked out, but he got dropped a couple times versus Cody Garbrandt, man. I think Petr was too technical, man. I think he would cut off the cage against Dominick Cruz, man. And I think he would throw these body kicks to him, man. I think he would hurt him on the feet. I think he would catch him with punches when Dominick Cruz is trying to use his head movement, man. I think Petr was really too skilled, man. I think Petr is greater than Dominick Cruz, man, on the GOAT list. But in this hypothetical matchup, man, I think Petr could also get takedowns on Dominick Cruz, man. People forget, man. Petr has some crafty takedowns up his sleeve, man. He he has that little judo trip, where he gets gets a collar tie and back trips them. I think he could land that on Dominick Cruz, man. I think Petr Yan is a lot stronger than Dominick Cruz, man. He's a lot bigger, more dense. Dominick Cruz was a little flabby and fat, so I think Petr Yan would end up outstriking Dominick Cruz on the feet and end up, dominating the fight, man. I think Dominick Cruz is good. I think it would be like a Corey Sandhagen type of fight, I don't think Petr Yan will get a knockout, but I think he would definitely outscore him by decision. I think he would win 49-46 after losing the first round, man. I think Dominick Cruz could give him some problems, maybe being on the outside a little bit, not letting him get his reads, Yan likes to take it slow the first couple of rounds, but man, I still think he would win, later rounds. I think he would put it on Dominick Cruz, man. After Dominick Cruz gets a little tired, I think he would put it on him, and end up, catching him with some strikes, maybe hurting him a couple times, man, catching him, end up just outstriking Dominick Cruz, man. So I think Petr Yan by 49-46, 48-47 decision. So Petr Yan would win this hypothetical matchup. Moving on to featherweight, we got Volk versus Aldo, man. So we got, this was they actually did fight in the past, man. Volk actually did beat Jose Aldo in the past, but, Jose Aldo, even though he was like 31, people don't call it his prime, man. But, man, I'll say, I think this would be a really similar fight, man. I think, a lot of people, get on Jose Aldo and is like, damn, he's not in his prime, man. He wasn't in his prime when he fought Volk, when he fought Max. But, man, he was like 30 years old, man. Volk right now is like 35, man. I think Volk right now would be any version of Jose Aldo, man. He's just too technical, man. He was too technical, man, with his leg kicks. He's just a better fighter, man, a better striker on the feet. He could wrestle if he wanted to as well. He was just more clean, He was able to box, box out Jose Aldo in the first fight, man. He would outstrike Jose Aldo with his leg kicks. He was just too much for him, man. Too much volume, Volk can't hurt a fly, man. So I think this would be the same type of fight, man. I think 30-27 Volkanovski in this hypothetical matchup. And Volkanovski also is the GOAT of the featherweight division, by the way, man. Jose Aldo been surpassed by Volk, a couple years ago, man. So, yeah, Volk by 50-45 decision, man. Moving on, we got lightweight. We got Justin Gaethje versus Islam Makhachev. People think Khabib's the GOAT of the lightweight division, man, but I think Islam might have surpassed it. But even though I think they're about the same, man, I think Islam, Justin Gaethje already did fight Islam too, so we gotta. He already did fight Khabib, so we have to, put this other hypothetical matchup in. Let's get into it, man. Justin Gaethje did beat Ilia Topuria, by a knockout, basically. He did knock him out, technically, corner stoppage, or it was a doctor stoppage, but, man, let's talk about this matchup, man. We got Islam Makhachev, he moved up to welterweight, Islam, man, is a very good wrestler, a very good striker, but, man, we saw in these last couple fights, man, he wasn't able to take out these opponents like how Khabib did, man. Islam Makhachev, man, he went to a war with Dustin Poirier, man. People forget, man. Dustin Poirier on one of the judges' scorecards was 2-2 going into the fifth round, man. Khabib, submitted Dustin Poirier in like the fourth round, I think. So I think Khabib is better than Islam Makhachev, man. But Islam does have a better striking than Khabib. You have to give him that. But I think, man, this could be a lot closer fight than people think, man. I think Justin Gaethje could hurt Islam on the feet, man. He's a good matchup, but I think Islam, Justin Gaethje, I think this is how it play out, man. I think the first round, Islam would probably get a takedown early, hold him down for the rest of the round. Justin Gaethje gets back up, I think Justin Gaethje would then, win some striking exchanges on the feet, these next two rounds, but then get taken down at the end. People are like, damn, that's the Islam round, when Justin Gaethje did more damage. And I think in the later rounds, like fourth or fifth round, Islam Makhachev would manage to get a sub, manage to take his back after tying out Justin Gaethje, man. Because I think this would be a close fight, man. I think this would give Islam Makhachev some troubles, man. I think the matchup, I think this would actually be a really good matchup, man. I think Justin Gaethje could, land some really hard strikes on Islam. I think he lands some of his uppercuts, his goofy goober uppercuts, his Rufus style, punches, man. His ducking of his head, man. I think that could give Islam some troubles, man. He has, showed some good takedown defense, Justin Gaethje, but I think Justin Gaethje, man, that could be a hard fight, but I think it would end up being a late submission by Islam Makhachev, man. So official prediction, fifth round submission, by rear naked choke after wearing Justin Gaethje out and being a close fight. Moving on, we got welterweight. We got Islam Makhachev versus George St. Pierre, man. So let's talk about this fight, man. We just talked about Islam, but now he's going against another welterweight great in George St. Pierre. I mean, these guys are kind of similar fighters, man. These guys are similar fighters, man. Islam Mackhachev, he's both a good striker and a good wrestler, and so is George St. Pierre, man. He was able to get some knockouts in his career, but he was mostly a takedown type of guy. He always wants to get those takedowns, man. So I think, man, this was kind of a clash of styles, man. I think this would be a close fight, man. But man, I think this would be an easier fight than Justin Gaethje for Islam Makhachev, man. In different ways, man. I think George St. Pierre isn't as good of a striker as Justin Gaethje. He has less power, Even though George St. Pierre did hurt some people, he hurt Michael Bisping back in the day, but he never really had some big oomph, I think his striking is a lot worse, man. I think this would be a really tough fight, man. But I think Islam and George St. Pierre's grappling would go head to head, man. I don't think grappling would be a factor in this fight, man. And to be honest, I think Islam Makhachev is the cleaner striker here, man. I think Islam Makhachev is the better striker, man. If you look at it, man, he's the more clean striker, man. George St. Pierre is a little blocky. He had those big muscles, those bodybuilding muscles. He's a little blocky. He's doing this with the head movement, man. So I think Islam would be able to outstrike him a little bit, man. But I think this would be a close fight. I think both of them could exchange takedowns. I think Islam could get some takedowns here, and I think George St. Pierre may be able to take Islam down. But man, I think Islam would get the better of George St. Pierre. I think it would be a 48-47 decision. I think he would outstrike him on the feet, and they would go head to head with the takedowns. The grappling would be similar. I think this would be a decent fight, man. Class of the skills, man. This would be a high level MMA fight. But I think Islam Makhachev would win by 48-47 decision. And yeah, official matchup prediction: Islam Makhachev 48-47 decision against George St. Pierre. Moving on, we got middleweight. We got Sean Tarzan Strickland versus Anderson Silva, man. Man, I can't believe Sean Strickland's the champion, man. I thought Kamza was gonna win. It was kind of a fluke in my opinion, but whatever, man. Let's look into this matchup, man. We got Anderson Silva, man. The legend, great. Has some nice striking. But man, I think Sean Strickland is a really bad matchup for Anderson Silva, man. I think this kind of reminds me of Chael Sonnen, man. Not with the grappling, but I think Sean Strickland would be moving forward, pressuring Anderson Silva, getting Anderson Silva tired, man. He'd be walking him down, with his freaking guard. I don't think Anderson Silva could catch him with those teep kick, that front kick like he did against Lyoto Machida. That's just not the matchup, man. I think this was the worst possible matchup for prime Anderson Silva. Sean Strickland is just gonna walk you down, keep you, be pretty boring, but he's just gonna outstrike you, man, with 1-2s, Anderson Silva wasn't really like that with his combos, man. He was kind of a lot of power, He would land some cheeky strikes, man, some cheeky submissions, man. So I think, man, Sean Strickland would walk Anderson Silva down, man. And I think he would outpoint Anderson Silva, man. And I think he would end up getting him tired and maybe even knocking him out in the 5th round, man. I think Sean Strickland is a lot, more active than Anderson Silva, in terms of his volume, Anderson Silva, even though, man, he is a really good kickboxer, man, but he did, he had a lot of one punch KOs, one kick KOs, man. His head kick over Lyoto Machida, his other KOs, his other submissions, man. But I think Sean Strickland would be able to wear Anderson Silva down, maybe hold him up against the fence, clinch him against the fence, wear him down. I think Sean Strickland will win this by 49-46 or even a late round KO, man. A late 5th round KO, a late fight KO. Man, I think Sean Strickland would end up beating Anderson Silva, man. So official prediction, official matchup. Sean Strickland would beat Anderson Silva, 49-46, maybe a late round KO. All right, moving on, we got light heavyweight. We got Carlos Ulberg, versus John Jones, man. Carlos Ulberg, man, he got a win over Jiri Prochazka, man. Got kind of a lucky win, man. He got injured, man, and Jiri just let himself go and got KO'd, being very stupid. But let's talk about this matchup, man. Got John Jones, man, talking about prime John Jones, man. He was a very tough guy on the feet. He had some good takedowns, man. He was good on the feet. He's a very well-rounded fighter, man. And then we got Carlos Ulberg, man. He's also pretty well-rounded. He's more of a striker. He has some good takedown defense, but man, that left hook, he has a lot of power in his hands, man. But man, I think after that surgery, let's go prime for prime, man. Prime for prime, no injuries. I think this could be a good matchup, but I think John Jones has shown He's proven, he can handle these heavy punchers. John Jones literally doesn't get hurt that much, man. If you've seen it, man, in his fights with other heavy guys, heavy power punchers, Rampage Jackson, these other, fighters, man, he doesn't really get hurt a lot, man. He's pretty good at his head movement, man. I don't think Carlos Ulberg would catch him, with a left hook with a right hand, man. I think John Jones, were able to defend those strikes and end up, maybe even outstriking him on the feet and then getting in takedowns, Carlos Ulberg will have to be wary of the takedown threat, I think John Jones will be able to take him down, and I think he'll be able to beat him up, and then, I don't think he would finish Carlos Ulberg, man. I don't think he will not finish him, man. John Jones, had some pretty boring fights, he had some decisions back in the day, man, so I think John Jones will win this by decision, dominant decision, man. 50-45 for John Jones, just outclassing him on the feet, getting some takedowns here and there, showing his, striking prowess, showing some fancy kicks, some spinning back kicks, some head kicks, some elbows, I think he would just, be an average John Jones performance, man, 50-45. And moving on, we got heavyweight, we got Tom Aspinall, man, versus Stipe Miocix, man. I think this is a good fight, man. I think people are underestimating Stipe here, man. I think Stipe was very underrated, man. Guys, I have a saying, man. I think Tom Aspinall is overrated, man. You got some good KOs over these blocky guys, Sergey Pavlovich, Curtis Blades. But, man, Stipe, man, is actually a more skilled striker, man, than Tom Aspinall, man. I think Tom Aspinall will, try to go and knock Stipe out, prime Stipe. We're talking about prime Stipe, not the Stipe that, fought John Jones, man, back in the day, like a year ago, man. Old man Stipe, could not move at all. His hips were really blocked out, he's really at a retirement home, I think, man, Stipe, man, he'll be able to defend those takedowns, man. Francis Ngannou tried to, take Stipe down, man, in the first fight, man. In the first fight, man, Francis was trying to take Stipe down, man, but, he had a very good takedown defense in his prime, man. And I think on the feet, man, Aspinall's gonna try to get an early KO. I think, I don't think he'll gas, but I think he'll, wear out his arms a little bit. Power's gonna go away, and I think Stipe will be able to beat him up, man. I think Stipe is the cleaner fighter, man. I think he'll beat him up, man. I think he'll beat him up on the feet. I think he might be able to, outland him and just maybe land the harder strikes, man. I think he'll be able to hurt Aspinall at a point, we've never seen Aspinall hurt in a fight, actually hurt, actually wobbled, actually dropped. I think Stipe will be able to, I think he'll be able to, outstrike him on the feet, man. After he gets tired in the first round, I think Tom Aspinall might be able to get a takedown the first 2 rounds. But I think after that, man, Stipe's just gonna, beat him up on the feet, man. So that's my official prediction, man. I think Stipe will be able to get a 48-47 decision based off the later rounds, man. Just outstrike him on the feet. I think Aspinall might gas himself out early, man. And I think Stipe will be able to get some good striking in. I think he'll be able to hurt Tom Aspinall, man. And I think he'll just be able to end up outstriking him and beating him on the feet. After Tom Aspinall takedown gets stuffed. After he gasses out a little bit. So official prediction: 48-47 Stipe Miocix. And that'll do it for the video, guys. If you like it, please drop your predictions down in the below. Who do you guys think will win these hypothetical matchups?